All right, current situation, car's up in the air. Car is up in the air now. You guys have been watching my channel. Y'all been complaining and talk about stuff in the comments and pictures and stuff and say, hey, why don't you lower your car, get rid of the wheel gap. I plan on doing it. We finally got time to do it, so that's what we got going on today. So we got the Eibach springs going on now. I put the part number below what I'm going with for these particular springs. I've been had them in my house for like since Christmas. I just haven't had a chance to get them put on. So now we're getting them put on. And if you are familiar with watching my channel, did the Scatpack, he did several Scatpacks, and also famous for saying not cutting your pipes as well. This guy here, this guy's a man. So we're gonna get, he's gonna do most of the work. I'm here for more support and whatnot. So we're getting this thing squared away, and we'll show you the progress of what we're doing here. We're gonna start on the back, get the back done. I think the back is usually harder than the front because of the way you have to do it. The front is usually a little bit more, it's a little easier because you just take the struts out and pop the springs out, pop the springs in. Like, you can't die doing it if you do it wrong. But
Knockout needs to coin the term, the knockout stance.
The knockout stance, okay. The knockout stance. Y'all know the knockout stance. Might have to hit the knockout stance a couple of times here. But
always helpful.
Always helpful. So yeah, so that's what we got going on today, man. Weather is beautiful. It's not as hot as it was when we got the Scatpack put on. It's a good, like, right now it's probably like 60-something degrees in the end of May, which is unheard of for this area. So we're gonna let y'all know the progress, see how this thing goes, and show y'all how this thing looks when we get it done.
Bad thing is, I gotta take this out for 2 seconds just to get to that fucking bump stop.
Do you have to take it out from the top? Cause
yeah, the bump stop sits here, and then I gotta take the bolt loose to get this header off.
Do we have to take the my strut tire brakes out?
Oh shit. I don't know.
Cause I know I threaded.
See if I can access this, because if I can get this to slot now, because it's around the plastic, it's around that bush.
I know I know I had to thread the stuff from the top side.
Yep. Uh-oh. Let me see. I can cut it from there.
I'll show y'all where we at right now. I'm saying we like I'm doing stuff. I'm just sitting here for more support. Sway bar is a rear sway bar is disconnected there. Currently working on the lower A-arm here to get that so we can swing that down and get the spring to drop out. So like I said, the rear is a little bit more involved than the front. The front is really straightforward. It's always the rear on these cars. So also another thing, we'll have to trim this bump stop a little bit here because when you lower the car, you lose a little bit of travel, and when you trim it, you give some of that travel back, you get some of your ride quality back. It's not going to be the same because anytime you lower your car, you're going to lose ride quality. It's trade-offs with everything. You can't lower your car and keep factory ride quality. It's damn near impossible for the most part. I mean, you can, but then you're gonna be rubbing against stuff and whatnot. So
when you do lower your car, also suggested and probably pretty smart to go ahead and get an alignment the day after or a couple of days after your car has resettled from changing the aspect of where it's riding up or down.
Yeah, that
will greatly pay into the wear of your tires, how they're heading down the street, how you're transferring power off the rear axle to your tires and giving you horsepower to give and go. If you're slipping, you're not gripping. So in that sense, you're slipping, you're not winning either. Yeah. So in a race and you want your car to go fast, the more grip you have towards your rear tires, the safer it is, the better that feel is going to be, and the more reliability you're going to have in your car's ability to steer out of a corner, wet steering, driving conditions, and adverse driving conditions.
For sure.
Another suggested thing also, people call around and get a lot of quotes. There's a lot of misleading information. Now, the smartest and safest way to do this spring install is to totally drop this subframe, meaning this whole section of the subframe. Drop it down to sag and be able to access this spring, drop it in and out. There are other ways to do it, which are Safety questionable. It can be done if you're watching out how the angles and what is playing in here in the control arm and the spring area is producing of tension. Tension will kill you. This spring produces per inch of compression about 3,000 pounds of backwards force against it. So if this happens to shoot out on you, it's going to go through metal, concrete, your chest, your arm, your legs, whatever's in its way. Be very careful when you're doing a system that's under tension.
For sure.
Just suggested for hobbyists at home watching the video, trying to get hints of how you do it. Now, if you want to drop the subframe, that is the suggested way. Just have it supported on a proper jack that can control the weight of, I would say, 700 to 900 pounds dropping down as one piece. Now, it would also probably be suggested to sag the exhaust, because as you lower that, you're going to start running into the exhaust, which will dampen your spirits of getting that spring out. So sag the exhaust first from the insulator here in the front, and then the insulator in the rear, which will give you the play down to be able to have the movement to get the spring out if you go after the subframe itself. Once again, that is the smartest, safest way to get after the springs. Going after the control arm can be done, but you're going to also notice you'll have swing and sway movement in here once you drop out of that, because all these 3 to 5 connections here, upper and lower, will have articulation and movement because they're kind of sitting on ball joints. So once the bar and the bolt goes through and it makes a tight connection, it still has some give and go for upwards, downwards play, especially here in the bottom as the 3 main connections connected to the control arm and the rear trailing arm, control arm, and stability arm, and even your sway bar plays into it with the center link. So a lot of stuff goes into having you back to stability.
Right.
When you go back together, also never kill it with a gun, because you can over tighten these bolts, you can strip them out. Always tighten it up by hand, because you're never going to create a cross-threaded situation with a bolt and then have to, oh shit, I gotta run someplace, get the same exact bolt, or go back to the dealership, get a $17 bolt, just so it's the right size, right thread pitch, the bolt, and everything meets in there with no rubbing. So kind of treat your stuff good. And also, if you go in there with a gun and tighten stuff too soon without sending the assembly up once you get the new spring with a new different articulation in here, once again it's going to want to go higher. When you tighten it, you want to send everything up to a kind of a torsion state, then come in here and tighten your main bolts, because there's bushings in here that also have to follow that new stance. Once those get binded up, you have it all the way down, you go in there, tighten the main bolts to that situation, it's going to fight you wanting to level it out perfectly to where you get one side higher than the other, one side not wanting to level out. So basically you're taking care of that situation before you get it onto the ground with the tire by coming in with the jack, pressing this all the way up in there, tightening the bushings front and rear, getting it nice and safe, letting it sag back down, applying the tire, and then applying the car's weight, and then going on your test drive.
Bingo. All right, now here's the dangerous part. So this is the part where the spring comes out, and this is where
you can die.
You can die. You can die. Lose an arm, leg, head, lose your whole chest, all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because this notch is about to come out.
All right, actually, I'm about to step back. Bolt out, and the part where we slowly drop it out.
Control.
Control. Do not just yank the jack from under there.
Yeah, fast movements are killer movements. Nothing good happens fast doing auto shit. So if you go slow, you can notice what's going wrong.
I can see it on camera, he's barely turning this thing. All that tension on that thing.
letting this knuckle come down by itself. So if it twists and turns, I've got control over it on the flattest point I can get onto with my jack. And then, presto changeo, you're dropped.
There it is.
Your boy wins.
Yeah.
Side note, always clean out your mounts because you get dust and nasty rocks and shit like that. You put this new metal against the rubber, this starts to flex. Even a rock down here go, you'll hear it under your seat. So you want to clean out your rubber insulators that literally support that into a metal to metal or a metal to metal situation there. Here's your top insulator. Once again, it's got a stopper right there that indicates where you put it against the top of the spring. The bottom mount also has an indicator where it catches that ear. Flat, nice, does not allow the spring to twist once it's in the notch. Also, if you notice this, it's kind of got like an egg shape. That indicates and indexes in there into the bottom. This one indexes into the top. This one pretty much doesn't move once you have it sandwiched in there between the lower control arm and the body of the car. This one doesn't move at all because once again it notches into only one spot. But keep them clean. Put a little bit of lube in there maybe. Will help the settling, help everything move freely and less rubbing sounds up in the dash. And that's sometimes when you lower your car, as it's settling, these things are wanting to move around. They're flexing differently than the OEM setup, so they're going to make different noises. Be prepared for that. That's what you bought. It's pay to play.
There's a comparison of what the springs can look like. So right here, you got the progressive kind of like coils here, tight here, and then gets a little bit looser there. You see it there,
and notice the number of coils.
No, yes.
That will also allow it to raise up and down further than what this coil spring tension.
Exactly, because you see real tight right here. And this is probably where most of your movement's gonna come down here. These aren't gonna move as much. It's gonna help just get the car lower and your movement's gonna come there. Like I said before, if you lower your car, you're gonna sacrifice ride quality here. I don't think there's any way around it for the most part. But
and for the sake of importance, when you're putting in springs, most companies will put their mark on it. You want the words so where you can read the words, not upside down. Most of the time it says in the instructions, but whoever reads that shit. But if you notice this bump stop, if you index it at the 12 o'clock position, this one up here is different set. So that's where this comes in importance of spinning that correctly so it doesn't move up at the top or it doesn't move down at the bottom, captures the spring and gives you the best ride you can.
all right, so I'm gonna give y'all a quick summary of what was taken apart here. Now, sway bar here, sway bar bolt here, just A-arm control, just lower A-arm control, control arm here, and it was also the lower shock mount. That will allow you to drop this, but you also gotta drop the exhaust as well. Can't forget that, so you gotta drop the exhaust, this bolt here, lower shock, and sway bar. That will allow you to drop this out, give you enough play to get the spring out.
But you gotta watch out because you've got a ball joint in here in this main section behind the outer bolt on the control arm that will twist on you. Also, you've got up and down play off your CV axle. It'll look like it'll want to line back up to you, but as this is gaining tension, this is pushing back down. You notice this is coming out. So if you don't line all four things with the spring back up in there correctly, while you're trying to push this into place to replace the bolt through there, you can get it twisted. You've got 3,000 to 4,000 pounds of tension in that spring built up. You've got your jack pressing here. That jack kicks out at you, it can become a dangerous situation. So that's where the suggested change of these springs is to drop the whole thing. Some shops quoting 6-7 hours to do so. They're quoting you correctly. They're not trying to cheat you. It takes work to do that. They can die doing this. This is not an easy job. So $500 minimum to change over some shocks or spring sections to lower a car is probably within the realm of reality. And then you have to aid in the cost of the alignment of another $100, $110, depending on where you're going to your alignment center to get it to not eat into $1,000 or $1,200, $1,500 worth of tires. So there's a lot of mentality going in. Yes, it looks cool, but you also have to do some other maintenance other than just putting the springs in. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, they look great in the box. Yeah, every video shows you, hey, look at these beautiful springs. They come out of the box, then they're under the car. it doesn't seem like people give an education of, okay, you've also got to do X, Y, Z
You do.
to have the advantage of where you spent your money. Get the full advantage of the money, the lowering aspects of the car, transferring the weight, transferring the power differently. That's why you're spending the money on this. And it looks fucking great. I mean, bottom line, it takes care of that ugly ass full fist wheel gap that you don't want to have in there anymore.
So y'all been in my comments asking me, when you gonna change it? When you gonna change them? So when you gonna change it? When you gonna lower it? Here we are, we're lowering it.
We're getting it done.
Now here's the fun part where you get the spring sitting in there correctly. Now,
Suggested if you're gonna do it this way, at home watchers, get this spring mount insulator rubber boot down here first. If you notice, you've got wiggle room up at the top. That will allow you to spin it and notch it in correctly. You've got two rubber ears down there that kind of wrap around the spring. So if you have way to spin, you can access into those two lips on the either side, spin it in the spot, and your rubber boot does not move from north to south. It stays in the egg-shaped notch. Then you take this one and then notch it up there into the top, correct? Set up that once I raise all this in line, I'm almost guaranteeing myself success to meet my house. Get home correctly, everything lines up. And remember, you got several moving things in here that you're going to have to reposition. This notch in here for the bottom can twist like it did on me. You got that moving that has to meet into that hole. This has to stay notched in correctly here to meet with the bump stop. So you can get kind of backwards and messed up if you're not paying attention to what's moving and what's binding you. And especially once you get your jack under here, you're thinking you're close to success. Oh shit, I'm ready to send it home. You have this binding because this isn't accessed the correct way. You just fucked yourself later once you get that bolt home. So you get binding, and then you have north and south movement and east and west.
now you don't want east and west. You want
So yeah, you want to go grab it at one of the flattest, safest points, and this is hollow. See? So when you come in here with your jack, if you have something stable, and then of course you want to be out of the way of the bolt, so you don't want to be fighting, you know, access in. You want to come grab it here safely. So once everything goes in, you're pretty much guaranteeing yourself for lineup and success.
Good shit.
You got a little bit of adjustment once you get this home and get it safe and notched in. Bolt is sitting in there. You got the nut on the back of it, so you know it's not going to pop out. You know you're not going to get hit in the chest with the spring. But then, of course, always check your placement, because now is the time to readjust instead of you getting it 100% in there thinking, hey, I'm good to go. Let's go cruising with the wife. And it sounds like fat people fuck. No good situation, bro.
You know what that sounds like, man.
Oh yeah, hey, I've heard it before. I was in that other room. I wasn't meaning to listen, but it's just
if anybody's overweight watching, no,
I'm sorry.
It's
obese.
I'm overweight technically myself. I'm kind of tall, but I drink a lot of beers when I'm not recording stuff. So
shit, I turn sideways, my shadow disappears. I don't know what you're talking about. Another secret to kind of lining everything up, so because you have 1, 2, 3, 4 moving pieces together, you notice I've set this bolt in here, so as I compress, my shock is going to be moving up at the same rate, my spring is captured, and I have more apt to be successful for the twist I'm going to need to get this straight in. This looks flat. It doesn't. It's not. It's kind of at a kicked angle, so if you don't have something in there, you go to drive the bolt, you can mess the threads up on the bolt just trying to get it back into place, and then that makes that a not safe bolt on a major stability center. So that notches out, and this goes flopping in the wind, and it's not put in right. It's a bad day for everyone. You seen a video of the Kia getting yeeted up because that truck kicked the tire off.
Yep.
Same thing happens here. This all kicks out, grabs into the ground, it might not kick the tire off. You're going on one hell of a fucking ride just because of a loose bolt.
Right.
Or something that didn't get lined up, or something that got stressed out as you were trying to send it back home, where if you took your time, you'll fight it a little bit, but use the strongest muscle in your body, which is your mind. Think it through. Don't force. Anything with force in a suspension system, you break a bolt, you break the suspension part, then you're into more expense, which is a bad day for anybody. And if you got money to throw away, my mailbox is right there. I'll give you the address, but
this is not OSHA approved.
This is not bankruptcy or debt consolidation.
No, definitely
For free information, visit ADRquote.com.
So what we got the jack pushing up on the lower control arm here. And you notice I'm sitting over here. So how is the jack going up? This man is pushing it with his foot, man. This is engineering at its best.
and I'm fighting twist north and south and east and west, and the control arm has a little twist to it to not notch up where the mounting point and bushing is. Now the reason why I'm trying to have my hands here while I'm doing it, because I'm looking how my notch and how my ears here are wrapping around this, so I'm not twisted, I'm not too far pushed, I'm not biting into the bushing here, which is very important for ride quality after this job is done. And going slow, trying to watch here and also watch my jack stand, because if I push off the jack stand, the body of the car is now under tension with this spring. Notice I have no movement there much anymore. It's all in the control arm. So sending it home as close as possible the first time, success. Good enough. I'll line this up from the front and be able to start to feed that bolt. Loose bolt over there.
A loose
Bolt by itself.
this one.
It's getting beautiful. And I'm safe.
That's a success right there. So we got the hardest, I keep saying we, I'm just here. He got the hardest bolt in there.
This looks like it's horizontal, nice and flat. This still has a little bit of give and go, so as you capture it from the rear, you kind of have to come in with a pry bar or something off of something solid, because you've got rubber here, and kind of twist that arm to let the front of it come up to allow the bolt to come through, so you don't mess up your threads. You can re-bolt nice and safe. Your bushing's safe. Your bushing here is safe. Then as you articulate off the end here, it'll compress the spring where it wants to sit correctly, allowing you to come back in here, tighten both of these inner and outer bolts on there, giving the proper tension on the bushing, so allowing for the suspension to be doing what it's supposed to be doing. Now I just have the lower control arm captured. I'm safe. I can move on to other things and tighten everything up.
The other part they kind of leave out with doing this part is taking down the bump stop just a little bit here, so you give your rear shocks a little bit more room to isolate as you're hitting bumps and all that type of stuff. So.
As your shock is going up and down, you only have a set amount of space from the OEM. So if you have to go through furl articulation and it comes down here, it will actually bump into this. This little dust boot always covers that, so you never usually see it on any car. It has an accordion type thing almost like this on most cars. So as this is working, it is coming in and it's actually hitting here. So with this, I know I'm at least 1.5 inches difference just off of their website and their instructions. So to give another 1.5 inches of up and down movement without impeding this and give the lowest drop possible, you move a little bit of this out of here, leaving it nice and flat. So if it does flex up in there and hit, it hits the rubber and not metal to metal.
Yep. And you got to think also, this thing is not under load right now. So when we drop it down, that gap that you see there, all that gap,
smaller.
Yeah, it's gonna get a lot smaller. So we're just trying to give it back that gap that we're gonna lose with dropping the car down. Now we're still gonna have bump stops in the car. You don't want to get rid of that completely. We're just giving it that same isolation that it would have before the drop there. So you loading the suspension?
Yeah, basically I'm putting the simulating the load of the tire being on the car and the weight of the car being down by pressing the whole suspension up. I have loose the outer bolt here and the inner bolt here to allow the bushings not to bind, so when I set it up I get the lowest rate and not a lot of settling after the fact, not a lot of rubbing sounds, metal bolts against the metal sleeve on the interior of the bushing. This all centralizes and gives him the best chance to get the best alignment possible after getting the car loaded. But when I'm loading the suspension, I'm grabbing as far out, kind of simulating the tire pushing up on the suspension system, and then watching where I have the jack stand on the body of the car. Once I know I start lifting off the body of the car, I know I have this as full loaded spring tension as what it's going to do, because it's basically acting like suspension once I try to push it up.
Yeah.
I know I have my furthest travel up, and then start grabbing. If you hear, oh, I don't know if you can hear.
Yeah, I heard it. I
there.
heard it move. Yep.
My jack stands over there creaking like hell, so I know I'm putting tension on that. I just left my jack stand. Got a very hair movement in the jack stand, so I know I'm pushed up as much. So now I come in here, tighten this onto the shock, and tighten the inner bushing and control arm bolt together by hand. Never do by gun, because you can over tighten it, bind those bushings. It has to also work the other way to go up and down in a centralized position to give you a very good suspension feel and a good suspension ride.
So we got everything. I keep saying I know everything's buttoned back up now. Only thing is the sway bar is not connected, because we still got to do the other side. At least on the other side, it is the exact same way as doing this side. So he's gonna do all the same basic principles that he told you on this side. So he already has the bolts off on that side, so it's pretty much just dropping the lower A-arm, getting the spring out, putting the spring in, and then once both sides are in, then we can put the sway bar back connected to this whole rear thing, and the back will be done. Like I said, the back is not easier. The back is harder than the front. He's a professional doing this. He has been doing it. He actually probably spent more time talking, explaining how this goes, and actually working on the car. He's moving quick with this. Amazing work. All right, so got everything buttoned up, both tires on. Now we're gonna see exactly how low this car is. So in the back.
Now it's gonna be the fun part to see.
Now, can we get the jack from under the car? Is gonna be the question when we drop this thing back down.
That's what I told him. It's like, good, I got 2x4s over there. I'll get it off if I need to.
Tires
Usually this red kit's is the low
and
kit.
let's see, here we go. Oh, it's still going. Oh, it's still going. That's what.
Yeah, we love it.
That thing is low. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That thing is low. Hey, just leave it like that. We're gonna just leave it like that.
You want the
Yeah, we're gonna do Carolina squat.
Carolina squat?
First one on the Charger. We're gonna leave it like that, right there. Carolina squat, first one on the Charger.
You're definitely getting home on time.
I'm getting home on time, yeah. So y'all can see the difference here. And this is kind of stock, but the back, that thing is in there, man. That is in there.
Down, dude.
That is in there.
That is a low kit. And that's why I try to articulate that motherfucker all
Right.
the way up. I put spring tension on it. So when we come down, you don't have any more squat to go. Your settling has already been taken care of by me fucking sending the whole damn assembly.
For sure. So y'all saw how low the back is. The back is sitting, that thing is looking good, man. I love the stance on the back. We're getting the front done now. Now the front definitely is gonna be easier, more straightforward than the back. First thing we gotta do, we gotta take these strut bolts out. So I got to get my strut brace off and all that. After we get that out, that's gonna make that loose. Pull the tires off, get the strut off from under the car. Then from there, we switch the springs out in the struts, put them back on, and we're done. I explained it kind of quick, but that's basically what it is. That's really, this is more
There's no more
straightforward.
stupidity than that.
Yeah, that's really as simple as what it is. So the front is always the easiest on these type of cars.
The front of the car always sets your parking brake.
Oh, it's already set. I already said it. I already said it, man. I know a little bit. I know a little bit. All right. I know a little bit, man. So I'm gonna pick y'all back up as we get some of the process on. All right, so like I said, front is real easy. 3 bolts here on top. If you look here, sway bar end link here that you gotta take out, and then you're gonna come back and get the ball joints out after that, just to drop down. You better pull the whole strut out, and we'll do the easy part. So you see here, we got the strut out. Of course, when you get the strut out, you gotta make sure you unplug the cable for the active dampening on these particular cars. Now, you don't realize how big these struts are until you actually get them off the car. Now, this is the part where you can die. There's several parts you can die, get hurt. There's another part where you can die here. So that's why I'm gonna set the camera off and I'm gonna go across the yard and let him do this part. Not that I don't care about him, but he does this better than me, and somebody gotta call the ambulance in case something happens.
Sometimes your no fucks given gotta be strong.
Yes. So pretty much what he's gonna be doing here, you got to release the tension on this particular spring so you can get the hat off. Once you get the hat off, you pretty much can drop the spring on there, and you have to pretty much put tension back on this to drop it on there so you can get the hat back on. And then once you get that part, then you can put it back in the car. That's why the front is so much easier than the rear.
All right, important placement of this head system. If you notice where it lines up with the sway bar bolts, you want to make note of how the triangle sits, because that will help you position it back in the car a hell of a lot easier than having to place this and turning the bottom of the strut to access the bolt and your strut. So if you get this out in the same position, almost in line right here, and put it back in when you got the new spring, you basically set yourself up for success back in the car. And if you look as you're compressing the spring, you want to work side to side and kind of compress it at the same rate. And then once you notice it come off the top hat and off the bottom seat, you know you got proper tension in it. Or at least tension that you can work it safely. See, I got movement off the top, so I know my spring is independent. Can also come in here, spin, spin, spin. So I know I've got my tension loose. I can go after this bolt safely now, kick it off, get my hat, and put the new spring in. And once again, always clean this mount. See all this debris and stuff like that? And set up on the brand new metal, in between that rubber, it'll sound like shit. It sounds like stuff is coming through your floorboard. So take some time, wipe it clean. So when this comes on here, meets the assembly, spin it into the seat where it meets the notch, and then you're pretty much lined up. And then if you made proper note, once again, of where that hat is and how it indexed off that triangle, and you put that in as straight as possible, when you send that final bolt home, you're pretty much lined up to just throw it right back in the fucking car.
Yeah, and that's the part you can mess up if you don't line it up. You get on there trying to put all that stuff together, and then you realizing that's not lined up with that.
Oh shit, that bump stop doesn't meet there because that's at a different rate when it goes back in the car. It's important to have these two lined up with that down there, because that only goes in the car one way, and access that to be straight on the left or the right side. You can move the bottom, you can move the top, so play with your adjustment here versus underneath the car. Just to show you, this fucking thing is dangerous. So this is compressed of how barely I got the bolt loose. So this was just compressed enough to come off of the strut. So if you notice how much tension is on one of these, they are stupid fucking dangerous. Now, if you notice how tall it is, set it up against one of the new ones.
See the height difference on that there.
So, got to take the compression out of it. You would have let that go with the tension on it. This spring goes shooting. The hat goes shooting, and if you're standing in front of it, it is going through you. It hates life.
That is true. That is true. I think y'all maybe seen the video where the guy let the spring go and it went like, I don't know, like across the yard or something. It's somewhere on YouTube. Y'all go look that up though.
Several videos of people doing McPherson strut fails. Absolutely dangerous. They will murder you and take you out of ever wanting to do mechanics again.
And probably ever doing anything ever again too.
You have an important part of your body in front of it. Consider that thing done for. It is not ever, will never be the same again. Your hand, your face, that thing comes shooting off of there. Probably with enough weight to raise a 5,000-pound car and spring up and down and give it back force. This thing has at least 9,000 pounds of tension. You compress it by inch, you double to triple that suspension weight that's on this spring. Very equals into a bad day. So don't fuck with it if you're not sure. It's one of the things,
Basically.
Easy thing to absolutely end your life or end anything with this.
You see here, springs are in, just button everything up here.
For his launches.
Dad's been getting everything buttoned up on this side.
What can I waste my money on this week?
Fail. Repeat it on the other side and we'll be done. I'll let y'all see what it looks like when we get finished. So because how low the back is and how low this front's gonna be, we're gonna get the 2x4s out. So when we drop this car down, we can get it off the jacks. So just about done, let y'all see the finished product. All right, I'm gonna see how it's gonna take to get this thing down. Want to grab the jack stands?
Yeah.
All right, I'm grabbing them. So I can say I did something.
Just a single one on that side.
I got you. Yeah, I'm sorry off of this thing. So, see, I'm doing some work, guys. So I wasn't just a spectator. I'm actually got my hands on some stuff. I put a cap on earlier. So I'm actually doing work, guys. So I did more than the moral support stands here. So you see how this wheel gap's gonna look now.
Stand pretty fucking tall.
Yeah. We still got the jack stand on the other side. So this is not the how it's gonna look. All right, so how this thing looks. Now we're gonna drop it on the other side. That thing's still going. Okay. That's how we're supposed to be sitting.
Without that wood, we would have never done it.
That's how we're sitting there. See the wheel gap? Y'all can leave me alone about the wheel gap now because now we're sitting much better. It looks good.
It's an inch, at least an inch and a half, if not an inch and 3/4.
See how we sitting now, guys?
Real
Yeah,
nice.
that's sitting really good. Sitting really good. See the front here. Because we was on those like 2x4, so it was kind of looking a little bit higher in the front. Now we're even. Looks a whole lot better now. We're definitely probably gonna scrape a little bit more, but I mean you can't avoid that when you lower your car at all.
What it is.
It is, but it's part of the territory, so it looks good here. So I'm gonna do a little drive with them, let y'all know how it feels. I know it's gonna feel different, but you know, you lower your car, you change how the springs work and all that type of stuff anyway, so happy with it.
Alignment, alignment, alignment.
Yep, that is coming. Definitely gonna get the alignment here, especially if I need some more tires too, so we're gonna get that to take care of too. And that's gonna wrap up today's video. I'm gonna do a video in the future talking about more of like the whole ride quality and things of that nature. Today I just kind of want to focus on the full install of the springs and things like that. I love the way how it sits and everything, but I want to give myself some time to drive the car and actually understand what has changed with the car since lowering it. I know a lot of times people, when they get the springs, they want to talk about ride quality and stuff right out the gate. I want to give myself some time to like actually drive the car, you know, a few times and things like that before I start, you know, talking about ride quality and everything like that. So I hope y'all enjoyed the video. If there's something I didn't cover, or if you have some questions or something like that, feel free to drop them in the comments below. As always, we'll catch you on the next video. We're out. Cut it.